Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Talking Triathlon, where guess what? We talk about triathlon. My name is Tim Ford. That is James Bale, and it is World Championship Week. Kona, the Ironman in Hawaii, is happening this weekend, and we are here to talk about it. James Bale, Jimbo, how you going, mate?
This is the week, isn't it, mate? This is the one.
It is
This
the
is the one.
one.
No matter what happens in the sport at this point in the sport's history, no matter what happens elsewhere, no matter how excited we get about the T100 or how much Super League whips us into a frenzy or whatever challenge you're up to in the background, this is the race weekend that we all pay attention to. Nice and Kona right now. And here we go. It's the men's turn on the island.
It certainly is, and I think because we're in an Olympic year. I don't know if you know this. Olympics happened. We actually just recently got the double Olympic gold medalist slash WTCS World Champions. We'll talk about it a bit later, but we've had that opportunity. Like, we were both quite amped for the Olympics in the lead up to it. We were both in Paris for it as well. How are your excitement levels? If you compare your excitement levels to the Olympics compared to your excitement levels for Kona, what, like, for you personally, how do they compare?
I think it's like apples and eggs or apples and pears, isn't it? Don't they
Yeah,
say?
apples and
It's like
oranges, I think,
comparing
is the usual.
apples. I don't know. I can't remember. It's like comparing two different fruit types.
hmm
Because, for Paris, the excitement was an element of the excitement, a large percentage of the excitement was born out of the fact that we were going.
Yeah.
And there was the genuinely just catching up with you and being in Paris, because I don't see you very often, being in Paris for the Olympics, being part of that environment, that atmosphere. That was a big percentage of that excitement level. And then when we were on the ground, the race really did fill in the rest nicely because the atmosphere was incredible. The racing was unreal. The fact that it came together on the 2 days, despite all the things around that, the issues it caused with the athletes as a spectator was fucking brilliant. Watching
Mm.
those two races back to back with a very small gap in the middle, picnics by the fence. The whole thing was just fantastic. So all of that wrapped up, I was very excited about that. But then this weekend comes along and it's more of a, because we're not on the ground, it's more of a sort of there's a complex level of excitement because I'm just thinking about what could happen, all the little race dynamics and so many unanswered questions about who's doing what, who's going to be where, and ultimately when it comes down to who's going to cross that line first and who's going to round out that top five, it's very exciting, but in a very different way.
I think different ways correct, but I was very excited in the lead up to Paris for all the reasons you mentioned, but also, I mean, I don't know if you remember, but I picked both the men's and women's
Yeah,
winners.
I do remember that. Yeah,
And but I was so confident in that it made me like almost excited to see if I was correct. Like, because I've been saying it for a long time, but again, heaven for, I don't think it was like a huge shock. But this one, I do definitely feel like the long course stuff that I am maybe a little bit fatigued, just a little bit this year because there's been like, we had literally had Vegas last weekend. Like there's a lot of long distance racing happening the weekend. But Joe Skipper, people know Joe Skipper's on this week. Me and Joe talk about it. I said to him, and I still think this is the best start list in a men's race we've seen this year. And the T100 have done a really good job. The Pro Series has done a surprising job. This to me is like this is the sort of start list that gets me very, very excited. And that's right. It's those unknown things. It's the what could happen. Is this going to happen? How's this person going to react to this? Are Kristian Gustav riding with their Superman position? Like there's so much around this race that
and it's
does
so
get you.
meaningful.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
so meaningful because we know how much this one race matters to every athlete that's in it.
mate.
The Pro Series is fantastic, and I think it's carving itself its way through the sport. But every single one of those races is just a very small part of a much bigger picture.
Mm,
The T100 series is very important, and it's going well. We're getting some good racing out of it, but again, every single race is a small part of a much bigger picture. For this group of athletes, this race is the big picture. It's the one and done. It's the Olympic final. It's the World Cup final. It's Kona, and it's truly going to be quite the weekend.
yeah, yeah. You're exactly right. It's extremely significant, and so much so that for me, a person who sort of tries to avoid a lot of triathlon content, just as I've said before, I don't want to listen to podcasts because I think it might influence what I say here.
Same.
I've consumed a fair bit. I've been watching the Breakfast with Bob interviews. I thought his interview with Jan Frodeno was sensational. Like just 25 minutes of the greatest of all time just spitting gold the entire time. Like, so
Did you watch his interview with Lionel?
I have not yet. No, it is on my. I've actually been watching a fair few of
It's
those
worth your
Lionel,
time.
the race day vlogs that Talbot Cox does, which are again just sensational. Like that guy does so much good for the content part of the sport. No, brilliant. So I am certainly buzzing. I'm very happy not to be on the island this year. I think I've needed a bit of a break from it. Um, but
The,
no,
the interview with Lionel was really interesting, I thought. It was a really, really interesting insight into his psychology and how when he thinks of himself as the coach, he prioritizes being the coach. When he thinks of himself as the athlete, he prioritizes not letting the coach down so he doesn't have autonomy over his training. It's really quite interesting.
yeah,
Um,
he was talking to Jan about that exact thing. Exactly, basically saying that yeah, if a coach tells me to do something, I do it no matter what. Even if I have a
no matter
broken
what.
rib, I run
But
14
if I'm my
miles.
own coach, I will prioritize being the best coach I can of myself. And that's giving myself a break sometimes. It's like, whoa, that's an insight into a psychology. That's
There
some
could be a
interesting
PhD
stuff.
written about
But he also
Lionel
said that
Sanders.
he wanted to work with high level athletes when he's, in the future, he wants to be a coach of very high end athletes. And I was like, I'm not sure there's going to be market for that, mate. I'm not sure. I'm not sure there's a market out there waiting for you to come and coach them. But,
No, mate,
there's probably a bunch of age groupers who would be up for it.
come on. I think there'd be a lot of age groupers who would
No, but
sell a
he was talking
kidney.
about like high performance, really high performance, sort
I
of
see what's
being
your scientific.
part of high performance coaching squad. And I was like,
All
oh,
of a, all of
you can get a
Alexander
lot of age
Boo's
group money, mate.
assistant.
Go for that.
I think he will. I think he's going to do very, very well for himself. Speaking of getting that money, head to patreon.com/talking triathlon. What a segue. To be honest, there are very few weekends of the year where I think it is truly worth being a part of our Patreon group, but it is this weekend that while we're watching the race this
That
weekend.
that doesn't sound particularly inspired, mate. Very few weekends where it's truly worth it. Just this one.
Honest, mate. I speak from the heart. No, yeah, we've got the WhatsApp group, which is going to be going absolutely mental. I woke up both mornings this last weekend with the WTCS and T100 race. I'm not even joking. Over 100 messages each time, and
Yeah.
World Champs, it's going to get absolutely mental. Plus, you get all the bonus stuff. It's good.
It's brilliant. I went for a bike ride with one of our patrons, Lewis, on
What
Saturday,
tier is
and
that?
he was, hey.
What tier of
Oh yeah,
patron
that's
is that?
that's Platinum Bale membership. It's a side hustle I've got. He pays me in cash in hand once a week, delivery to the house.
Nice.
Um, yeah, and he was saying the WhatsApp group is one of the most useful tools he's got in his triathlon monitoring and watching arsenal, just because it's so many different opinions and perspectives coming into that one funnel. It's really quite a good way to keep on top of what's happening in triathlon.
Well, guess what? So patreon.com/talking triathlon. If you're not in there, however, this is hopefully a source of what's been happening in triathlon. That's why you're listening. And let's get started. As I said, we have the big Joe preview. So we're going to talk a little bit about some results from last weekend, and then we're going to go into the Joe interview. Then we'll get James to give his picks, and let's wrap it up. And let's start with T100 Las Vegas. James Bell, hit me with it. What happened? Tell me all about it.
Many things happened. Should we talk about the women's first?
Go.
The women's race, as we suspected, was as an absolute domination from Taylor Knibb. She
Shocking.
just kind of fucked off and didn't stop fucking off at any point. Um, it seems like her run is up there as well now with one of the very best in the field. Behind her, there was a bit of a race. Julie Darren did the best run split of the day and ran through the field up to second place, and Flora Duffy rounded off the podium in third. Julie Darren's run was spectacular with 107.50 on the run split, but the problem is she was just over a minute behind on the swim. She was 3 minutes behind on the bike, and then she didn't have the deficit, the split on the run to make up that difference. So she finished about 2 minutes behind Taylor Knibb when
Yeah.
it came to the tape.
How about Flora Duffy? How was Flora's run? Because I know that we've sort of seen Flora peak. She got injured
Yeah.
before Tokyo. Tokyo WTCS was brilliant, and then we've sort of seen her there or thereabouts. Like it's been
Her run
another
was 1:10.14, which was about 30 seconds quicker than Taylor Knibb's run.
but slower
Um,
than so what 90 seconds slower than Julie.
Julie's was 107.50. So 2 minutes, over 2 minutes slower than
Wow.
Julie Darren's run. Um, but the problem is she was there or thereabouts on the swim. She was just ahead of Taylor in the swim. She just lost some time on the bike. Didn't have the ability on the run to run that deficit down. Taylor's just putting such a buffer between herself and the rest of the field on the bike. She's the only athlete riding sub 2 hours on the bike. She's riding a 1:58:09, whereas everyone else is 2 hours and above. So she's putting minutes into people on the bike, and in doing so, building herself a buffer on the run so she can run a 1:10:47 and comfortably take the win.
Well, that's exactly it, right? We saw in Paris at the mixed team relay that she can run with the best of them. So there's definitely the ability to run as well. I think that, what we're seeing here is an exceptional cyclist in Taylor Knibb, who just also happens to be an exceptional swimmer and runner. Like again, I
Yeah,
talk a lot about, you've got swim bikers, run swimmers, whatever, complete triathletes. Taylor Knibb, like let's not get this. Taylor Knibb is a complete triathlete who also just so happens to be an Uber biker. Like if that's a very rare combination where you'll have, like Jan Frodeno, complete athlete, just so happened to, could ride with the best, could swim with the best, could run with the best. The problem is Taylor is just in another, like even looking at Magnus Ditlev, who has become a complete triathlete, front pack swimmer or just there or thereabouts. Very, very good runner, very good cyclist, but he doesn't have that huge gap over the athletes like a Sam Laidlow or, Robert Callan or, Christian Gustav. So Taylor is just this fucking creature
yeah.
she is incredible. And
Only three people swum faster than her.
yeah, mate.
She was the fastest bike by a margin, and then only four people ran faster than her. So when you put that together, you've got a complete athlete over this distance. She was, in my opinion, you're never going to see her win a gold medal at the short course, but she's going to be in the conversation in that sort of top echelon. But over this distance right now, just unbeatable.
Yeah. Even Ash Gentle, the what do they call the queen of the T100? No, not anymore.
Yeah.
Not anymore,
No, no.
unfortunately. Which would be again, it could be interesting to see what happens. Maybe Ash will step up. I expect Taylor Knibb is going to go straight to Ironman distance as well, which is really going to shake things up. But look, let's not talk about that so much. What I find,
But I
firstly, look,
mean,
sorry,
sorry, go ahead. No, no,
was
no,
it?
you go ahead. But you're still talking about the women's.
Yeah, yeah. I was going to
Yeah.
say Lucy Byram. I think fourth place for Lucy Byram, stellar performance. And the reason I mention that is because the other four in the top five, all short course athletes. Every single one of them went to the Olympics. No, the other four were in Paris. Taylor Knibb,
Mm.
Julie Darren, silver medalist. Flora Duffy, former gold medalist. Taylor Spivey has had more fourth places at any WTCS event than anyone. I genuinely thought it was when I saw she came across. I thought, was she fourth again? Like, what are the chances that she's got?
But
She
I
was
mean,
fifth.
remarkable though, isn't it? From what she's done this year
Yep.
to race the Olympics, to be competing
Super
at
League.
Super Tri, to then
Just
come to
podiumed.
T100.
Podiumed at
Yeah,
Super
yeah.
Try two
To
weeks
then
ago.
step across to T100 and come fifth, a strong fifth place is, truly quite the effort.
Yeah, yeah. I think that, it's gonna be similar in the men's as well. Like we talk about a lot. You see that wave of the short course athletes stepping up in distance, and this T100 just gives them a platform they've never had before, right? Because I mean, so does the Pro Series, but I think the T100 series a lot more. I think next year we're going to see, because obviously we're getting towards the end of it. We know that I think the top 10 automatically get a contract, then it sort of shifts around a little bit. I think we're going to see a lot of those short course athletes offered T100 contract. As rightly they should. Uh, I think that the dynamic next year is going to be very, very different. I mean, it won't, because Taylor Knibb's still going to win every race she enters, but second through 10 could be very different, just with so many of those different athletes going to be doing it. But no, women's race, excellent course. Look, the other thing I visually, but like what a good course to give these athletes. I really like that we're seeing more challenging courses.
Yeah, agree.
People little
Agree.
blow ups, little cramps, little bits and pieces happening. I saw in the men's race, Jason West was stretching at point. Like it's even the swim for the men's, at least when I saw it, like it looked rough, mate. And looking at the
Yeah.
pace, they're not swimming super fast because of those conditions, but it still is really impacting the race. So
Real
yeah,
shame to see India Lee get sick and not be able to compete
few
because,
people.
she's in that conversation for in my opinion, a strong second place on her day, even a
Mm.
win. But
Course suited
you
her.
never know. Oh
Yeah.
yeah, exactly,
I feel like India Lee
exactly.
has had a very unfortunate, we both huge India Lee fans, and to start the way she did, we're like, finally, like here we go, this is going to be it, and then it's just sort of been like just things keep coming up for her, and you know, what is it? Because you need three results plus the grand final, and she's had two really good results, and unfortunately, this sickness is sort of, it's going to really impact where she's going to probably end up overall in the season, unfortunately, and I don't think that reflects on the athlete that she is. Like I think she's really a victim of circumstance a lot this year. And I mean,
I mean,
yeah,
standings wise, she's still in third place overall. She's Taylor Neal is leading on 105. Ashley Gentle's in second on 92, and India Lee's in third on 74, with a gap down to Imogen Simmons in fourth on 66.
Imogen
And
Simmons is in fourth.
all of those top four have had them taken from their best three races so far. So she's doing well despite some of the circumstance that have
Yeah, it's
come her way.
incredible, incredible
And Taylor Spivey in 12th place.
already.
Yeah, already. Bloody good. Love it.
Cool. All right. Well, let's talk about the men's race because I know we're doing quite well for time this week. So, how are we going with the men's race?
Yeah, the men's race. All right, let me just find my page here. Where are we? Um, Interesting race, the men's. Did you watch it?
I've watched bits and pieces of it as it was a pretty brutal start for me on Sunday. I've watched the highlights.
Yeah, essentially. I was expecting the Martin Van Riel show again. I think we
Same.
both were. He was our pick for the win. Neither of us had Yellow Gaines in our. I don't think we even had him in our top five, did we?
He's been off this year. Like again,
Yeah.
normally I would have definitely considered him, but like he's done a few 70.3s this year and has just not really delivered. So again, based on the form book, if I looked at him as an athlete, yeah, Yellow Gaines, I think he's won WTCS race. Like guy's legit, but he's just not been like he's not shown up at a lot of the events he's done this year. So that's why I didn't pick him. I'm very happy to see him have this result, but I was a bit surprised by it.
Well, Yellow Gaines took the win. He was seventh out the swim. He was the fourth fastest bike, but then he put in the best run split of the day with 101.24 to take the win in 3:19.34, ahead of the chosen one, Martin Van Riel, who was the second fastest swim, third fastest bike, and then second fastest run, putting together a
First loss,
3:20.12
by the
for the
way.
finish.
First time he's
Yeah,
lost
yeah,
the race in middle
yeah. The
distance.
win streak is over.
Nuts,
The
hey.
win
Good.
streak is over for that man.
Probably good though, to be honest.
Just
Like
as
that becomes every race you do, that becomes a heavier burden. So it's probably a bit of a pressure valve release for him. Uh,
exactly. Justice Noislag rounded off the podium in third place. Unfortunately, my pick for the win of Alistair Brownlee didn't quite come to fruition.
I can't. I'm shocked, mate. I'm shocked. No, legitimately, he got another drafting penalty, and I just find it.
Yeah.
If you had to be honestly, if you had to line up athletes and say that these are people who don't draft, to me, Alistair Brownlee is one that the way he rides a bike. Like the way he races, he is that guy screaming at everybody else to take a turn because he's so often at the front ripping it.
Did you see the recording of when he took his penalty?
I've seen it and bits and pieces, and I watched it because
He,
everyone's
there was a few bit of swearing going on, fair play,
yep.
and I think he was saying something about, look, you need to just please feed this information back. There was a moment on the course where, for safety reasons, you had to do this. I need that information feeding. Please pass that message on. So I think, he may have gone within the distance, but I think he was trying to put a message across. I don't think we saw it on camera, so we can't sadly check
Yeah,
that.
I also think as well it does sort of, I guess it's showing to these athletes, a lot of criticism about the T100 not giving out penalties. It's certainly making all the athletes pay attention. If Ali is getting two, like he can't be doing it
Yeah,
anymore.
totally. And I think we were talking about it in the WhatsApp group, weren't we, um about the race ranger, and ultimately the only way to enforce that is to start giving penalties out, and eventually
Exactly.
the athletes will be like, right, I've really got to pay attention to this. I can't walk that fine line anymore. I've got to make sure I'm really respecting these distances and these rules. So it's no bad thing, but yeah, when he served his penalty and then he was back on the bike course and he was building time again, he was bringing that group back to begin with, and then he just sort of blew up and started losing time again, and then it was a DNF.
Yeah,
Don't think
saw
he
him on the
even
run.
started the run.
No, he was because I saw him on the run, and he just
Okay.
looked like he was miserable. So I thought, yeah, um, No, but again, like there's signs. There's all but there's been signs for a long time. But yeah, the other one, obviously, my boy Henry, DNF got food poisoning. But I just want to say, like, man, how good was it to see him? Again, one of the highlights from the race was watching that the swim gap after that first lap because those boys at the front, in particular Henry, was absolutely pushing it, and to see them put 3 minutes on Sam Long in a kilometer, like, wow. And then at the
Yeah.
end, 5 minutes. And again, it was funny. I was talking to Sam, and apparently Sam was saying to Henry, sorry, I was talking to Henry just before. He was saying that Sam had told him, like, fucking give it some in the swim, mate. Like, I think he was hoping there'd be big gaps to make, him run. Oh, you run to, I just don't think he expected it to be quite so bad for him. But
No, Sam Long, who was 16th out the swim, then put the fastest bike on course with 1:50.01, and then
so
the third
fast.
fastest run, but still had a deficit of nigh on 7 minutes to the leader when he crossed the line in sixth.
And again, like I sort of said with the women's race, like, Yellow Gaines, Martin Van Riel, Justus Nishlake to probably a slightly lesser extent because he has been doing more middle distance, but those are, short course guys. And again, just I still think if Henry was in there, he would have been, up there as well. Like
Imagine if
it's
he could swim. Imagine if that fucker could swim. It's the
no,
paradox, isn't it? It's the
yeah,
paradox of you can't out train a bad diet because no matter how much training you do, your body always needs to recover. So it balances it out over the week. Like if you do a mental ultra marathon, you have 3 days recovery. So ultimately, you tend to burn the same amount of calories each week, no matter what you do. And it's the same with this guy. He's such a good biker and such a good runner. The world has just balanced him out by making him the
you're a
swimmer
shit
that he
swimmer.
is. Because he'd fuck everybody. If he could swim front pack, gone.
Game over. Like that's what I mean. It's
Yeah.
it's again very very interesting conversations. Chatting with Joe about this, and he was saying if you sort of look at how Sam Long operates, he tends to sort of be good for about 6.5 hours, and then it's the last 90 minutes, whatever it is with nutrition or the way his body consumes carbs or whatever it is, he tends to drop off in a lot of the Ironman events. That's what sort of happens, and these T100 races are all under that threshold. So he's doing really well. Chattanooga, there was no swim, so it meant the race was about 6.5 hours. So we didn't see that sort of that fade at the end. But we're talking about this like because I said to Joe, I'd actually really love to do a chat with Sam and Joe, not to take the piss, to legitimately have them talk about swimming because both of them have been struggling. Both exceptional bike runners, but have really struggled to swim. And I'd be so fascinated to hear
Mm.
them discuss it together. And like he was saying, like Sam swims like 30K a week. Like it's not from a lack of like he's doing
No,
everything.
no. And both of them would fuck us over in the pool, something chronic.
Oh,
And,
oh, I can sort of swim with Joe, to be honest. I've done enough sessions. Although he was telling me that he was telling me some of what he's been doing lately. I was like, yeah, okay, that's too quick for me, to be honest. But
uh,
I've done plenty of swims with Joe Skipper. He does tap my feet a lot and then end up passing me sometimes. But yeah, just it's yeah, it very Sam Long is yeah, like I said, I love the guy. I really love him, and to see
yeah,
them
so
still
I
sort of
like
do
what he brings
stuff.
to the sport a lot. I like Martin Van Riel's post as well afterwards. He said that for years, him and Yella Gaines have
Yeah, I saw this.
discussed, fantasized about having a WTS podium together and never managed it. And then they've managed it in the T100 on the first try, which was quite cool. And
Four
to see
minutes.
such good mates.
4 minutes clear a third, mate. Like they fucked everyone. To be honest, like
Yeah,
this was very much
they
a
did
two-man
indeed.
show. And like I said with the women's, I think next season the dynamic we've seen Vincent Louis do his last WTCS race, commit to middle distance next year. Henry is very
Yeah.
much about middle distance. Tyler going to middle distance. I think that the dynamic. I think we're going to see a lot of those T100 contracts, especially those discretionary ones, being given to those short course guys transitioning. And I think we're going to see a exceptionally different T100 series next year,
Yeah.
and I'm for it.
And Martin Van Riel, he almost caught him on the descents several times, and then boom, just at the last minute, it was game over.
Yeah, it's cool. Look, let's move on to WTCS
Hang
Grand
on,
Final.
before we move on, the standings in the
Yep. Okay.
men's. We got Martin Van Riel leading with 98, Magnus Ditlev still in second from 79, Carl Smith in third on 76. Then it's Sam Laidlow, Sam Long, and down to Yuri Kulin. Um, so yeah, it looks to me like Martin Van Riel, if he remains consistent, is going to win this T100 series.
As he should. As he should. Um,
As he fucking should, yeah.
as he should. Let's talk about WTCS Grand Final now. Again, we are. I don't want this to be a 2 hour episode, so I think we need to maybe fly through this a little bit. Firstly, as we sort of touched on last week, both gold medalists have ended up with a done the double, which seems to be becoming an increasingly common thing now. With the same thing happened in 2021. So congratulations
Did
to
it?
Alex Yee. Yeah, sorry, Flora Duffy and Kristian Blum. Yeah, you're right. Actually,
I
Kristian
didn't know.
Blummenfelt is a
I
WTCS world
didn't know
champion.
Blumenfeld had won the WTCS World Championship. Fuck, it's news to me.
Greatest achievement he's ever done in the sport, right? Like it is the most of everything that man has achieved. That 2021
That
WTCS world
and
title.
convincing everybody he's going to ride the Superman position in Kona. Of course he is. Anyway, yeah, Cassandra Grosjean swam the wrong way,
Yeah,
mate.
completely. Like, and
I
actually, I'm
thought,
sorry. By the way, you as a representative of the Brits, fuck off, fuck you. They put in an appeal about her result, saying that she got outside assistance. British Triathlon,
yeah,
fuck you. What a
I
stupid
can
fucking
honestly say that was
joke.
nothing to do with me.
I know it's not, but
And
you represent the old blighty, mate. So
it's a
fuck.
bit, it was a shame. It was a
Oh my
shame to hear,
God, what
in
a
my
wank.
opinion.
What a
It's just
wank.
like, come on. Yeah, come on, do better. But yeah, so she swam the wrong way, but then she more than made up for that by swimming her way back into the race, um, coming out of the water with the leaders, and then just kind of
Kaboom.
having her day, having her day to go and win the world title. I thought it was fantastic.
Beth Potter, I didn't expect to come fifth in the top five. Came second. Incredible performance. Can you give us the top three, top five? What have you got them there?
Yeah, Cassandra Bergrand, first place, but then Beth Potter, Emma Lombardi, Vicky Holland,
Vicky
in
Holland.
rounding out the fourth. And then the standings come the end. Cassandra Bergrand won the World Championship on 4,000 points with two decimal places, both on zero. And then Beth Potter came second with 3,792 points, 0.51. Head of Emma Lombardi, who was 3,508 points, 0.06.
Yeah, Vicky Holland, fourth place after coming back this year. Incredible. Emma
Yeah,
Lombardi
that's
continues to
very
impress
cool,
me.
isn't it? To
Yeah,
finish off her what she's said is going to be her final short course race, final race, in the WTCS, to come fourth after, having the break, going and having children, coming back, and her post race interview was fantastic. What a performance!
yeah, incredible. The men's race. I just want to say, just before we talk about it, we have spoken a lot about what you can do to beat Alex Yee.
Yeah,
We have spoken a lot
yeah,
about it.
yeah.
And I mean, yes, there was obviously the crash that Hauser went down. I hope that Matty Hauser is doing okay. But
He sent me a message. He said he's fine.
okay. But again, you get a group. We've said it that you cannot beat Alex Yee on the run. And we saw a group realize that yes, you cannot beat Alex Yee on the run and do everything they
No,
fucking
no.
could to make it that you
What
cannot.
a performance! Were you watching this one?
Yes, I've watched this race.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, it was like a very well drilled team time trial off the front, having those five athletes off the front working together, switching turns. Using the elbow flicks to get the turn changing, and watching them build time and build time and build
So
time
much
and just
time.
work together with the chase group not working together very well at all. The chase group, and if I was in that chase group, I wouldn't be fucking working. I'd be going, Alex, mate, this is on you, bro. Tow us along,
He
motherfucker.
was at the front a
Off
lot
you
though.
go.
He did a lot. Like Alex did a lot of the work, I thought, to be fair. But look, the thing that I want to talk about. So Hayden Wild won it. It was Hayden Wild. Alex, he ran himself through to second, and I believe in
No, he
third
didn't.
place.
Leo
No, sorry,
Berger was
Leo
in
Berger was second.
second.
Alex ran himself to
Alex,
third.
he was in third.
Good
Dorian
catch.
Connix in fourth, and Pierre Lecourt in fifth.
Really, I thought most anyway. But what I was going to say is there's a few things here, right? So Hayden Wild rode with a group for the majority of the bike. Got it, like was quite up there in the swim. Got to that front. The crash happened behind them, which caused that split. But we didn't see Hayden having to do that thing that he does, where he's spending a big part of that ride lead in or pull in to get to the front, and then fucking basically doing the lion's share of the work on the bike. Right? We saw him work with others, which meant there was a lot of chance for him to rest, and he I think ran faster or very similar to Alex Yee, and it just shows that Hayden, without having to do all that work that he does to often catch up, is able to drop that split. Whereas Alex, who had to do a lot of the work trying to unsuccessfully close the gap, meant that
Alex
while
run 12 seconds faster than Hayden,
okay,
but Hayden had that buffer. And there were five athletes in that group off the front. In my opinion, it would have been more exciting if
if there
there
was a
were
sixth,
six,
yeah,
because Alex had to finish inside the top six in order to get the world championship. But even then, if there were six, and Hayden was running away like he was, Leo Berger would have come second. Alex would have still been world champion because Berger would have just gotten. Berger had to win if Alex was in seventh. So it just would have added a little bit more trepidation to the beginning of
And
the run
weren't
until
there
Hayden went into overdrive and fucked off at
and weren't they
pace.
saying there was like 1.36 points or something between Hayden and Leo in the end? Like some ridiculous
Yeah,
decimal
yeah,
difference or
pretty
something.
much.
Why Hayden
Um,
got third instead of second?
Oh yeah, Alex, you in first in the World Championship with 4,069.53. Leo Berger was in second with 3,728.33, and Hayden Wild was in third with 3,726.40.
Um, One thing I really, really, yeah, fucking madness. But I want to shout out Vincent Louis. Very emotional
Eighth
around this
place,
event.
yeah.
His last short course race, after the post race interviews, if they don't bring a tear to your eye, you're dead inside. Uh,
Yeah, yeah.
but what a career in short course. It is not the end. He's going to do very, very well at middle and long distance racing. And just, yeah,
Who else do
brilliant.
we need to shout out in that top 10, mate? Who came ninth?
My
Big
boy,
hairy bastard.
Tyler Mizlorchuk, sub 30-minute run for Tyler, which is really, really good. Yeah, as I sort of said, I think that crash sort of split things up. But well done, Tyler, mate. You're an absolute legend, and
Yeah, yeah.
looking forward to we'll still see Tyler do some short course stuff next year, but I think we're going to see doing a lot more middle distance stuff as well, which is exciting. He's got his TT bike now ready to go, so
I think it was a good race to wrap up the World Championship.
shit
I
venue
enjoyed
though.
seeing that group off the front. Yeah, but the racing made it exciting.
Yeah, yeah, it did. I mean, I liked the technicality of the. Yeah, it was flat and a bit boring, but it was very technical. And that's where we saw, a few crashes and stuff like that. So that was quite interesting. But like again, it's just good to see that, yeah, they know what to do, and it takes a little crash to make it happen. But yeah, congratulations to new world champions, Cassandra Begrand and Alex Yee, both backing
Should we
up after
should we
this year.
throw to Joe Skipper, see what he's talking
Let's
about?
let's go to Joe Skipper. We'll come back. So I'll drop the interview with Joe to talk all about Kona, and we'll be back afterwards. Well, as we would have just said, we are joined this week by a friend of the podcast, a friend of mine, Joe Skipper. Joe, mate, how are you?
I'm good, thanks, Tim. Great to be on the podcast again with you. And James, where are them teas? Come on, mate, hurry up.
Yeah, we just down the road from
How's
you,
our
apparently.
tea?
So come on, mate. Joe, obviously disappointed that you're not in Kona this year, but I thought it is almost becoming a bit of a tradition with us having a chat pre-World Champs. We did the same thing in Nice last year, a few days out from the Ironman World Championships. But I guess your misfortune this year is our game because we get to have you give us some real, authentic, genuine inside scoop sort of analysis of what's going to happen this weekend. It is the Ironman World Championships. But before we get at that, mate, I do want to have a bit of a just quick chat about your year, where you're at, and I suppose the obvious place to start is like how does it feel not being on start line in Kona this year?
Well, but my year obviously wasn't as good as what I'd hoped for. I'd hoped for to get some decent results, but there was a lot of things going on, and yeah, and I've kind of addressed them now. And in Chattanooga, that was a sign of like things were on the up. Like although the result wasn't didn't look very good on paper compared to what I had done, it was more about I just wanted to feel decent, and in Chattanooga, I actually felt pretty decent. I just wasn't fit enough, but I'd only done 3 or 4 weeks training going into that after taking a bit of a break. So I couldn't really expect to, bike and run to the level of like Sam Long and people like that. I mean, to be honest, to lose 5 minutes to Sam on the bike, considering there was no swim and seeing what he's been doing in the T100 races and off the train that I'd done was actually pretty good. And yeah, like I said, I felt good on the run, just wasn't, or during the race, just wasn't fit enough. But I've carried on training after Chattanooga. Well, I took a bit of time off to recover, obviously, like a week, and then I got back in training. Because my game plan, even with Chattanooga, was always building up to next year. It was just the fact that I wanted to do one last race, and quite honestly, Chattanooga was too early. And had there been a race in November, like Arizona, Florida, or even Western Australia at the start of December, that would have been absolutely perfect, and that would have been what I would have preferred to do. But there's no pro race there. So the game plan's to build up to next year, and my training's been going really well. I've carried on like from Chattanooga, and I've been getting a bit fitter every week. If the race was now, I would do a lot better than what I did then. But obviously, you can't change the race date. But I'm going to be racing Ironman New Zealand at the start of March, and with how things are building up, I'm pretty confident that I should be in really good form for that, and I'm looking forward to that. And obviously, with the World Champs this week, I'm really excited. Like to actually watch it and to see how it plays out. It would be good to be there racing, but I'm equally just as excited to watch it, and I think it's going to be an awesome race.
It's funny you say that because I know that after I was in Kona with you in 2022, and then last year they announced the split, and I was quite happy not to be going back to Hawaii last year. I was looking forward to going to Nice. But I have to admit, like watching it and seeing the, got Mike over there and a few others over there, and seeing it is a bit like, oh, I kind of wish I was there a little bit. I am getting that itch a little bit because they're. I mean, I really like Nice's World Championship venue, but it certainly doesn't have that same special sauce I think that Kona has because Kona the whole town becomes Ironman, whereas Nice you wouldn't have even known there was a triathlon happening if you went like 2 blocks back from the
Yeah,
Mustang base.
totally. I feel exactly the same. Like I saw all the females like when they were there posting stuff up about Nice and all the like world champs band, and I had absolutely zero interest of going there and didn't feel like I was missing out or wasn't really interested in the race, to be honest. Like it didn't capture me. Like I can't even say I thought, oh yeah, I want to get there next year. I literally did nothing for me at all. But seeing all the Kona stuff and all the pictures and the videos, what Talbot's been doing with Lionel, it's just you can't beat Kona, can you? Kona is the heart, it's the pinnacle, isn't it? And you can change the venues and try and make for exciting races. I don't know if we'll ever have a venue that will like really inspire you as much as Kona and make you want to be there. It's just a crucial part of the sport, really, isn't it? And when you see the sunsets and you see all the pictures of the ocean and that and the whole town getting taken over, you just think you want to be there, don't you?
I do remember after your race in 2022 when we were having dinner, we were at one of those places like next to the water and we were sitting there as the sun was setting. And I remember like being like, this doesn't suck. This is a pretty good spot. So no, I definitely agree. Let's talk about Hawaii though a little bit because I mean I know but like, what is it about Hawaii that makes this course? What is it about it that makes it so hard? Why do you think it has this allure, this reputation, this aura? Like talk to me about
Um,
Hawaii as a race location.
it's just purely, I think, the heat, really, because even the swim is pretty warm. So, like, the temperature at the start of the day isn't too bad, but the water's quite warm. So, automatically, that's going to get your core body temperature up a bit. And then by the time you get out onto the bike, although it's not like really hot, it's probably not cool enough to let it fully drop. So, once you get back, like, you do the bit on the way out to quite high and the temperature is not too bad. You can kind of cope with that. It's not that hard a course in terms of the terrain. It's just a little bit up and down. But then once you get to the climb to Harvey, that's where the action really starts to kick off and where you notice it. And it's it's 30 kilometers of gradual climbing, but with bits of descent. So it almost feels like one long gradual climb because you might be climbing for say 2 minutes and then you drop down a little bit, but the descent takes about 20 seconds. So it's like over and done with straight away, and then you start climbing, and that's where the real shake up happens. People push the pace, so you're working quite hard there. And then when you make the turn at Harvey and come back, that's where you really notice when you're descending into the heat. And then from the bottom of there, the climb back up to quite high to get onto the Queen K, with about 50 Ks to go, is when you can really feel it's like boiling hot. There's no shelter. The whole bike course, even though it might not be too hot, you've not been in any shade. You've been in the sun the whole time. And then obviously the last 50K is boiling hot, humid. You've got the heat coming off the rocks, which I think makes it feel even warmer than what it is. And then the run is where you really know where you really feel it. You know, you're in the heat of the day. Again, there's not really any shelter. The only shelter you've got is from a few houses or trees on like Alihi Drive, and that's it. And then you get onto the Queen K, and they try and stop spectators coming out past a certain point. So it's really lonely as well. So as far as you can see, you have to run. You go into the energy lab, which you descend down. The reason the energy lab I think is hard is because you have to do about a 1K climb on the way out. So you're obviously going very slow. You're putting in more energy, and the heat is just beating down on you. And it's the worst point in an Ironman. It's about 18 miles in. And then from the energy lab back, it's just whatever you've got left in the tank. And again, on that part, you're running straight for as far as you can see. And the undulations on the Queen K aren't that big on the bike, but when you're running, you notice them. Like you were out there, Tim, and you would have noticed that. Like even on the way back to town, the run's not flat, is it? It's constantly up and down. And it just taps you. And I think because the strength is so high in that race, everyone's fighting for every position. Like when I was there and I got fifth, I could have quite easily finished ninth or something, couldn't I? You know, because at one point going up the energy lab, I was getting caught by Clement Mignon. and I think I might have been in about 7th place then, so I would have been going back down to 8th. But then obviously ran strong in the last like 8 miles and got 5th place. So you're battling for every position. So it's making people push themselves to the limit. Whereas in a normal Ironman, the gaps could be 5 minutes to the next person. So if you go through a bit of a bad patch, you can knock it back a bit and you can cruise, can't you? Whereas there, if I'd have knocked it back and cruised the last 8 miles, I would have finished in 8th place and not 5th. So it forces you to push yourself to the limit.
I also know that again I've not raced it, but I've spent plenty of time out on that course. Is that because of the terrain and the fact that it is those lava fields? It's actually quite difficult to really identify the landmarks. So there are obviously certain points, but I know that for myself, I always coming back to town, I would always think that when I hit the airport, I was basically back. And again, I've done that ride 20, 30 times. You're still quite away. Like the airport's not, it's not like, the next turn. There's still probably a decent chunk, 10, 15K. So I do think it is also like it's deceptively difficult or far just because it's actually quite tough to identify particular landmarks. It's like the surface of the moon, mate. Like genuinely, those lava fields. There's nothing. And again, the first time I went to Hawaii, I was like, oh my God, this Kona, the magic, all this stuff. And then after about 4 days of riding out to Harvey and back, just going, this fucking sucks. There's nothing.
Yeah.
It's just desolate. Nothing. There's nothing out there. And I think it's a boring course to be honest. Like again, everything we're saying about the magic of this race, I definitely feel it. But I actually think that the actual course itself, it's a horrifically boring course. Like there's
it's a very boring course, and they could actually make it quite exciting because there's actually some quite nice mountain roads there as well. Like,
what you want to do? Maybe they could write up what's the climb that you wanted to go and do this year when you were originally going to be over there.
Mauna Kea. That's actually the biggest mountain in the world. If you look at how far below the water it goes to how far to the peak, it's actually bigger than Everest. But I saw Cam Worth went up the one opposite the other day and did 135 miles on Sunday after the practice swim.
Who's your other mate? Rasmus Svenningsen, the Terminator? Was he
Rasmus Svenningsen?
The Terminator? Was he out there doing the other day?
Like riding 5 minutes faster than Laidlow's bike course record for 170 Ks, and he stopped at the airport. And the last 10 Ks would have been like flat and gradually downhill back into Kona, so it would have probably been even quicker, or at least as quick. It's just crazy. I just hope for his sake he doesn't end up riding faster in the training ride than he does on race day.
Yeah, we'll see. Oh, yeah, he came good in South Africa, but I know that there's been a series of races where that's sort of happened. But again, we defer to his expertise. Let's talk about the race, mate. So we've got a pretty stacked field. I'll be honest, this field is, we've seen some great start lists at T100, and then a lot of the Pro Series Ironman races this year have had like surprisingly good start lists at a lot of them. But this is, to me, the best start list we've seen this year. I think instead of talking straight to picks and favorites and things like that, I mean the names on the list. The thing that I always get really fascinated by are like who are the outside shots or the dark horses that maybe aren't going to win, but you think could, firstly, not a lot of people are paying attention to and could have a real impact on the race. They might not win it, but they could do something that could dramatically change the way the race unfolds.
Definitely Rasmus Svenningsen would be my number one. I think he's gonna struggle on the run. He's probably gonna at best finish top 10. But if looking at how he rode on Strava, and if he can ride that quick, and knowing that he's not a front pack swimmer, he's going to be 5 minutes, 4 minutes down on the swim, he could potentially tow some hitters up to the front group or in contention. People like Trevor Foley, Lionel Sanders, and I know Lionel, you look in training, he doesn't run that well. Sometimes he can always pull it out normally on race day, especially if he's in it with a sniff of the win. Like you've seen it on loads of 70.3s. Like when he's in there with a shot of the win, it's like he gets an extra gear. So he could tow someone but Trevor Foley could be dangerous. Like I feel like he's going to be really good in the heat.
Yeah.
With his
Lake
growing up
Placid run.
in Florida.
I think a lot of people don't understand how impressive that Lake Placid run was, because that course, it's not an easy course, and to run he absolutely smashed your previous course record, I think, and running on.
It was Matt Hansen, 5 minutes by Matt. He beat my course record, but he ran 5 minutes quicker than Matt Hansen's run course record, 4 or 5 minutes faster than that.
Yeah, I've actually got Trevor Foley picked for 5th place for me, because I think he's going to. I think what you said about Rasmus, I think is extremely accurate. I think there's two. There's Jesper Svensson as well. Jesper Svensson, Rasmus Svensson. Those two guys, I think Patrick Lange is going to be a big beneficiary of that. I think that if he is able to get pulled up towards the front, or at least within striking distance of the front guys because of the efforts of those boys, I think that could have a huge impact on the race. I think that could be, again, not that I haven't picked Patrick Foley, but I think that that could be a pathway to victory for Langer. Is benefiting from those Scandos coming from behind with a point to prove to get as close to the front as they can on the bike and show everybody how good they are. Definitely.
Yeah, I'm talking about Lang. I think that he is probably going to miss the front pack swim.
Yeah, so do I.
Like in Frankfurt, he obviously didn't make the front pack. In what was the one before that? Roth, he didn't make the front pack. And then the practice swim, he lost 3 minutes. So looking at the last 3 swims he's done against quality competition, he didn't make it. I think, although in the past he has made it, and that has set him up for a good race. I think for Patrick to get a good result in this race, it's essential that he makes that front pack. And I think his race plan, his whole race comes down to that, because I can't see him riding faster down the groups ahead behind someone like a Svenningsson, like just having the power to be able to do that if he doesn't make the front pack. Like, I think even if he does make the front pack, he loses a bit of time on the bike to people, but then banks on having a fantastic run, you know, what we've seen in the past, to catch them on the run. But he can't afford to lose 4 minutes, 3 or 4 minutes on the swim before starting the bike, because he's going to lose, say, another minimum but 4 to 10 minutes on the bike. You can't start the run 12 minutes, 13 minutes down and expect to outrun some like that much time into people. You know, he's not going to run sub 2:30 in Kona, is he? And that's what you'd need to if you're giving up 12 minutes. You know, potentially he could run a 2:36, which, you know, if he's 4 or 5 minutes behind, that's good enough to get the win. I mean, Gustav did that last time, but I think Patrick needs to make the front pack if he's to get a really good result there. You know, podium.
So you're calling now that if Patrick Lange comes out of the swim without being in the front pack, it's basically game over for him.
Yeah, for the podium. Like, I think he could still be top 10, because if he can do a decent run, he'll catch a lot of people towards the end. And but I think for him, if he wants to win, he has to be in the front pack, you know, because he hasn't got the bike power. He's not someone like, you know, if he had like Laidlow or Ditlev's bike, you'd be like, and he could still run like he could, then you'd be like, it's not over, you know. He could bike the same as the guys up front. And if he starts to run 3 to 4 minutes down, then happy days. But yeah, I just feel like with his bike, he's going to lose even more time.
I just realized that when I was talking about the other guy that could work with Rasmus, I made up some name. I actually meant Robert Callan. Callan was the name that I meant to be talking about. So just wanted to correct myself there. I could see him and Rasmus working together to come through.
But Robert Callan's a lot better swimmer, though.
Yeah, I know he's a front pack. He's very much a front pack swimmer.
So Robert, I don't think they'll even see each other on the bike the whole time.
Yeah.
Because I think that Robert Callan will ride very well, but Robert Callan will swim with Laidlow and all those guys. So the Robert Callan could actually be detrimental to some of the guys behind, because he could tow people like Laidlow and that away. And anyone who's with Robert Callan is going to be happy to work with him, because they know he's not going to run that well, which makes him very dangerous for the guys in the chase pack. Because, you know, people like Magnus, Laidlow, if Magnus makes the front pack, Laidlow, Kristian Blummenfelt, I mean, like anyone like that, anyone in the race is going to be happy to work with him, and he's going to want to get as much of a buffer starting the run as he can, and also get some publicity being off the front, getting the fastest bike split, breaking the bike course record. You know, because at the end of the day, if he breaks the bike course record and runs 3 hours instead of 2:58, you know, he's got way more publicity, isn't he? So like, he's good. It could make him quite dangerous for the guys that don't make the front pack.
What about an athlete that I guess I've been waiting to see him have a performance that I thought he's worthy of this year, and I haven't seen it yet, is Leon Chevalier. Now, Leon was, I think, if he hadn't have had was it a penalty? He got a penalty in 2022, and he otherwise would have basically set the bike course record. What do you think?
He would have been a bit slower than Laidlow, but he would have only been about 1.5 minutes, 2 minutes. He got a 1 minute penalty, so it wasn't 5. But then he had to catch everyone up on Harvey, rode straight to the front, like, you know, caught Cam Worth up in no time. And if you look at the segments on Strava on the way out to the turn, he was the fastest, you know, and even with his minute penalty. So yeah, he was incredibly strong. But I just feel like, I don't know how was he riding compared to back then. You know, he was riding really strong, but in the T100 races, when Sam Long's come past, he hasn't been able to go with Sam Long in the T100 races, which makes me think, like, is he riding as well as what he was in 2022? You know, I'm not in the races, so I don't know how it compares to me, but I would have just thought if he was riding like that this year, he would have been able to go with Sam Long in some of those T100 races, and they would have been able to work together. But Sam's just rode straight past him. Um, and then also with his swim, he needs to be with Rasmus Svenningsen. And Rasmus, interestingly, actually had a really good practice swim. Rasmus only lost 3.5 minutes on the practice swim, I think, 3.5, 4 minutes, which for him is actually really good. And if he swims like that on race day, Leon might not be with him on the swim. And I think for Leon to get a good result, he has to be with Rasmus. Has to be. If Leon's not with Rasmus, his race is down the pan. Like, I personally, when I say down the pan, I mean in terms of getting the top five.
Yep.
Like, the only reason he has a chance if he's with Rasmus is looking at how strong he rode on that ride on Strava. But then Rasmus needs to ride like that and not have spent all his money in training. Like if he's like, who knows whether or not he's going to feel fresh on race day. I hope he does. And I hope he doesn't do anything stupid like running 25K 2 days or 3 days before the race and he just rests up, because if he overdoes it and doesn't race as like he did on that ride, then it's going to be such a shame. But yeah, if Leon gets out with Rasmus, he has a chance, in my opinion. If he misses Rasmus in the swim, I think you might see him come 7th, 8th, 9th, scrape into the top 10, but I don't see him making the top 5.
Matt Burton, the Australian who rode away from everybody in Ironman Kansas race you were part of and then held on for the win.
Yeah.
I think he's flying well under the radar. I think his bike as well is something that nobody's really talking about.
Yeah, and he's been swimming a lot better. I saw in the practice swim, I think he swam, I think I saw him. I'm not sure because I was looking at the results in 2022 as well, just to compare how people did. But I can't remember if I saw him on this one or not. So I'll pretend I didn't see him at all on the swim. But he was looking at how he swam in Cairns and the people that he swam with some really good people. And potentially, I think if Magnus doesn't make the front pack, like if someone takes the swim out really hard and they manage to drop Magnus, Matt Burton could be with him, and I think he'll ride with him. And looking at how we ran in Cairns, it was like fairly hot and humid. Obviously not as bad as Kona, but it's like a milder, dumbed down version of Kona, isn't it?
Yeah.
And he ran 2:45. He looked strong. He paced it well all day, didn't he? You know, it wasn't like he went out hard and blew. It was like he knew that in his head, if I run 2:45, I've got this race won. And he just went out and did that. And I think he's an outside bet. The only thing that goes against Matt is every time he's raced in Kona, he's not raced to his potential. But I think if he has the race that he can do, he could get a top 5 in Kona. He's really improved his swim. He could get out 2-3 minutes down and he could bridge up to like one of the front packs. And then if he's good in the heat, a 2:45 in Kona is a really, really good run. And I would have thought he would be fitter now than what he was in Cairns, because in Cairns he only had 4 or 5 months or 3 or 4 months of training after that horrific medical he had. So, and I've looked at him on Strava because I follow him. He hasn't really had many other races, so I imagine he's gone all in for this race now. So I think he could podium if he has a good race, if he has a good swim, and he's out with some good people on the bike. I think he could do really well. I think he's definitely going under the radar. No one's talking about him, but I think he could cause an upset.
And then the last one that I want to get your opinion on before we move to some of the bigger names is Mike Phillips. Kiwi boy, my man, Mike, Magic Mike. What do you think is going to happen with Mike Phillips?
I think for Mike to get a good race, he has to be in one of the front packs on the swim. Not necessarily the front pack, but say there's a group like 90 seconds down, 2 minutes. Mike needs to be in there if he wants to get a really good race, because I think then he could stay with some of the people on the bike long enough to get towed up to one of the front groups. And then for Mike, his game plan just needs to be stay in the group, keep in contention, and he could run well. In the past, he's done some really good runs. Like he used to be the course record holder on the run in New Zealand. Cairns, he had a really good run in the end, didn't he? And nearly run down Braden at the end. So if he's in good run shape, like he was then and like he has done in the past, he could do a really good run. I think he just needs to be in contention starting the bike. And his swim is like, with Mike, it's like his swim's like hit and miss, isn't it? Like in the past, he's had some awesome swims where he's made like front packs that are pretty fast. And then he's had some where he's lost like 4 minutes or something on the swim, and it's not consistent. So you just don't know what you're going to get, do you? Like with Mike on the swim, like, you know, Where a lot of people, they're either going to be front pack or they're going to get dropped straight away. Whereas with him, it could go either way. He could be 5 minutes down the swim, or he could be in the front group with Laidlow on the swim. If
Yeah,
he has
yeah.
a good swim, if he has a good swim, I think he could do really well. The saving grace, though, for him could be that even if he has a bad swim, he's not going to be further behind than Rasmus. A bad swim for him would be getting out with Rasmus Svenningsson. If he can stay with Rasmus and let him do the work and bring him back up, that's great. If he ends up having a swim where he's 2 minutes down and say Rasmus is 4 minutes down, but Rasmus catches him, he's saved a bit of energy while Rasmus has caught him. He can jump behind that train and then get towed up to a decent group. And then as long as he can do a good run, he could finish top five. But he has to have a good run, like he's done in the past, low 240s. If he's got that in his locker, then he could be good. He could be good for a good result.
No, I did say Mike's the last one, but I just did see the last guy that I want to talk about influenced some of the others, and mostly because of what he did in Chattanooga. But Jackson Laundry, what do we think from? I know you spent a bit of time with Jackson. I know you know him. What do we think for Jackson?
Jackson's like upped his swimming, he said, since Chattanooga and not ticked over on the bike because he knows the swim's crucial. Like we told him in Chattanooga, like for him, he needs to have a really good swim. If he has a good swim, he can definitely ride with Laidlow, Ditlev, and people like that. He's riding really, really well at the moment. So he needs to have a good swim, and he's hit some good times in the pool. It's just for him transferring it to the open water. Like in the pool, he's actually hit some very fast times. I think he did in training a 17:30 or 17:40, 1,500 meter TT, which is like 110s for 1,500 meters. So he can swim. He can swim well. He just needs to do that in open water. But I heard him say that he was going to do a proper warm up for this swim. And this year, he hasn't done very big warm ups in the swim. He's literally just got in, done 100 meters. But this time he's going to get in 10 minutes beforehand. He's got stretch cords that he's taking there. He's doing a full on warm up, treating it like it's a swim race. And if he gets in the front group, he could be off the front with the other guys. The thing with Jackson is he needs to run well. And in Chattanooga, he ran slower than me. And in Lake Placid, he fell apart a bit on the run. But if he can run well, and the weird thing is, you don't need to run mega fast in Kona. You just need to be strong. If he can get off the bike, if he got off the bike, say with like best case scenario with him at the front with Laidlow, and people like that, and he runs a 2:48, would be good enough for a top five because he would be starting the run ahead. But for him to get off the bike with them, he needs to have get a good swim. Worst case scenario for him, again, he'll be with Rasmus on the bike, but he could work with someone like that, and that could form like a real power group. Because like if Trevor Foley has a great swim and they have bad swims, three of them could be together, and if they work together hard on the bike, they could cause some real damage and ride themselves up towards one of the front groups. They won't ride themselves up to like someone like Laidlow. He's probably going to ride like the same speed as them. But the group behind were like, say, Kristian, the Norwegians, people like that. Because I see Kristian getting dropped by Laidlow and probably Magnus because they are not going to want to start the run with him. And I feel like he's going to get dropped either on the climb of Harvey or the descent of Harvey and then lose time on the last bit. And if he pushes it to try and maintain the gap, he's going to overheat and struggle on the run.
Well, let's talk about that. Let's talk about that. Let's get into how the actual race is going to go because this is. I think I told you a few weeks ago. You heard on the podcast that I'd said I think Kristian's going to win this thing hands down. I don't even think there's anybody else with a shot. And you called, you left me a voice message and said, "I'll take that bet." How much would you be betting? Because you disagree.
Yeah.
The Kristian. So how do you see the race unfolding? What do you think is going to happen? Like, let's talk through Joe Skipper's predictions of how the Ironman World Championships is going to unfold this weekend.
I see a slower swim than normal, a slower front pack swim, because looking at it, I don't see any people that are really, really good swimmers that have nothing left to gain. Like in the past, you've had some people that knew they were going to struggle to get a top 10. So leading first out the water was quite a big thing for them in Kona. Whereas like you've got some really good swimmers like Laidlow and people like that. But he's not going to be bothered in pushing the pace because he knows he's not going to really drop Kristian on the swim. So it's almost like, why would I tow the group around? So I imagine it will start off fast. There's quite a few good swimmers for the first few hundred meters, but then it will settle down because everyone will be, the people that are in the front pack then will be happy that they're in the front pack and no one will really want to burn matches for the rest of the swim. So after about 2K to like something like that, tops, maybe even before that, the pace will come out of the front group and they'll kind of like cruise round. They'll get out. I imagine someone like Sam, if he's there, will have a really quick transition and he'll try and get on the gas straight away, straight out of transition, get a gap because there's carnage there and it's a really good opportunity to drop people because it's almost like a little 10K crit before you get out. Once you get onto the Queen K, if people are with you, it's very hard to drop them because there's no corners, no accelerations. You just sat riding constant power watts. So same with Magnus. Like if he's there in that group, he needs to have a really good transition. I feel like if he slow and a bit sloppy through transition, because sometimes when you see him, he's a bit like he loses time on like some of the technical bits, doesn't he? Like the transitions and stuff like that. If he does that, I think he's missing a big opportunity to create a gap at the start because if you're fast through the start bit, you can get a bit of a gap, and then on the Queen K, you can start putting time, getting to work, putting time into him. But I think the main action is going to happen when you get to Harvey, and I think Kristian could be with them up until Harvey. He could be in the lead group, everything will be going well because he's got a lot more stretched out position. So imagine he's more aero, but then I think his power is going to suffer. He's not going to be putting as many watts. And on the climb to Harvey, it's like you're going 35, 40 Ks an hour for the climbing bits of it. But you need to push big watts to go that speed. And I feel like he's not going to be able to push the big watts in that position to go with it. But you still want to be pretty aero because you're going well over 30 Ks an hour. So he needs to be in the TT bars. And I think that he's just not going to be able to go with the moves when they go. And then on the descent, the gap's already going to happen. And as soon as they know that they've got a gap on him, that's it. They're just going to put their heads down and drill it. And I feel like he's going to get off the bike with a deficit. And I don't really know who would want to work with Kristian to help bring him closer. So I imagine, or I would have thought if anyone's got any brains, they would let him do the work on the bike. And they know that he's gone there to win. So if you know he's gone there to win, you would be like, I'm going to do anything, Kristian. It's down to you. You're the one who wants to win it. So you need to do the work on the bike. And you're going to let him do all the work on the bike, put more energy into it. It's very hot. I think he struggles in the heat. Last time he only ran 240 compared to Gustav's 236. And he faded in the hot, humid conditions. And he has a tendency to cramp sometimes. Like we saw it in Milwaukee in the PTO race, he cramped. And I can see if he's put under a bit of pressure and the race isn't going to plan. Because he races very well when he's in control. When stuff starts not going to plan, like when Jan put him to a bit to the sword in Milwaukee, he started cramping. When he's been in some of these strong PTO races and he's been actually had a bit of been under a bit of pressure, that's when we've seen him falter. Same with like last year, Laidlow put a load of time into the bike on them, and they weren't catching him. Every time Kristian went to the front, like I heard Gustav say, the pace came out, and Gustav had to go back to the front and keep putting the pace high. Otherwise, they wouldn't have caught him. So when he's been under pressure, that's when we've seen him falter. And I imagine on the bike, he's going to be under a lot of pressure because the guys know that they don't want to run with him. He showed his cards in Frankfurt that he ran a 234. Like that's gone against him in Kona because who the fuck is going to work with a 234 runner? And Kristian, like if you've got any brain, like or tactical nous, you are not going to do that, are you? So you're going to put him under pressure on the bike. You're going to make him cook himself, and then he's going to fall apart a bit in the heat. And I see him going out hard at the start because he'll want to start bringing it down quick, which is very, very risky because of the heat. Once you get your core body temperature up, you can't get it down in Kona. And yeah, I think he's going to struggle. I think he'll definitely probably be third, maybe second. Just don't see him winning it. I just see one person hanging on the run. And also the guys up front are still running well. Like Laidlow isn't really a runner, but he only lost 2 minutes to Kristian on the run last year.
Yeah.
He's a lot better runner now than what he was 2 years ago. And I don't know if Kristian's any better on the run now than what he was 2 years ago.
What about the Canadian fan favorite, your mate Lionel Sanders? We've barely spoken a word about Lionel. What do you think is going to happen with Lionel?
50-50. Like I've seen his vlogs. One day he looks like he's going well. The next day he looks like he's feeling shit. I don't know if it's like the TV. It's like a reality TV show, isn't it? Like you're watching it, like something Big Brother. I just feel like in the swim, he's going to lose the time in the swim. And then on the bike, I don't know if he has to hope that he can stay with some of the big hitters on the bike because I don't think he'd be fast enough on the bike himself to close the gap. So it's just whether or not he swims with some of the people. Like, I mean, for him, the ideal situation for Lionel to get a result would be he loses 3.5 minutes on the swim. I think that's best case scenario for him, isn't it? He gets out the water with Rasmus, Matt Burton, Trevor Foley, Jackson Laundry, Cam Worth, and they all work together on the bike. And if they all work together on the bike, they could catch the the first big group of riders. You might have a couple of guys that are off the front, and then when they catch them, they end up keeping the pace high, which would actually help Kristian if Kristian was in that group, because at the end of the day, they need to, if one of them wants to win, they need to be in contention. And although I say you need to keep Kristian, leave him to cook, if you want to win, you kind of still need the gap to be a bit lower, don't you? To the front. So that would help Kristian, but then you just need to take him on the run. And he is beatable on the run. Like, last time when he was there, he ran 2:40 in the heat, and that would have been given everything because he was in contention for the win. So he only ran 90 seconds, 2 minutes faster than what I did. And I felt like I had a shocker on the run, to be fair. So it's not like they can't outrun him. And I think that's Lionel needs to hope that he gets with that front group in contention and then has a really good run if he wants to win. But if he wants to win, he's going to have the race of his life. He's going to have the hope that luck's on his side. He has the best swim where he only loses 3.5 minutes. He manages to get in a really good group. They all work really well. They keep the cap down, and then he manages to do the best run he's done in Kona. And in the past, I don't know if he's run under 250 in Kona. I don't know. Look,
Lionel's come out this year and said it's all about Kona, it's all about Hawaii. We've seen him, he's done some really good 70.3s, been a bit consistent, but then, one Ironman Canada. Let's say it doesn't. I mean, I don't predict. I could see him maybe top 10. I don't see him top 5. I wouldn't be surprised if he wasn't top 10, to be honest. Which is I love the guy, and I would love to be wrong, but he seems to be, again, from what you said, watching from the outside, and I know you know him a lot. You know him. I've never spoken a word to my life. What would happen, or do you think how he would react to having a bad race in Kona, considering that he's put all his eggs in this basket? Like, what sort of psychological blow could you see that having on him?
To be honest, I don't think any worse than what he's done before. I think less worse than what I think it would have less of a blow this time than what it would in the past, because he's had so many blows from the race. And last time in 2022, I think that would have been the biggest blow, because he was going in there hoping for a really good race, and training wasn't going well in the lead up. Whereas this time, I think he knows that the race can go either way. To be honest, I think if he has a terrible one, the shocker, he end up walking, I think he'd obviously be really disappointed like anyone. But I don't think it would have any more of a blow than if he had a really big bad result at another one. He would kind of probably just think, Kona's just not for me. I gave it my all. I felt like I trained really hard, but it just didn't happen on race day. And then we'd see him there in 2 years' time, giving it another go and trying something else. Like, everyone comes back.
Well, look, I know you've got to go in a little while. So the last thing, I suppose, and we'll have a little bit of a chat about it. What me and James have started to do on the show now is we'll give our picks from 5th to 1st. And we'll go through who we pick for that position and why. And then we can disagree, we can agree, we can call the other one outrageous, like I called James last week when he picked Alistair Brownlee for the win at the T100 Las Vegas. Do you have an idea if you want to pick? Or, I mean, I've got my top 5 here from the daily try, so I can start if you like, and then you can respond. What do you think?
All right, go on, and you start first then.
5th place, I picked Trevor Foley.
That's who I was going to go for as well, that is.
There we go. So we can agree on that. I think that he is going to benefit from getting dragged up with, or ride with the group up to be within striking distance. And again, I was so impressed with that run that he did in Lake Placid. I think he also has the benefit of going in a little bit ignorant, because I think that the first time you go there, you don't quite know what you're in store for. So like with your first marathon or your first Ironman, you tend to throw a bit more at it than you maybe would with the benefit of history. And I could see him running himself up through a couple to get to the top 5. So that's why I've got Trevor in 5th place.
All right. And then, I think that he's going to do a great run. And then on the bike, I think he's going to get with a good group. But I do think with Trevor, it's a 50-50. He'll either have a great race or he'll tank, because he's not even in Kona yet. He's flying out today.
I did hear this, actually.
Yeah, he's flying out today on the Wednesday from Denver. It's a big flight. Like, obviously with altitude, you either want to race 2 to 3 days after you arrive, or you want to race 2 weeks. He didn't want to go there 2 weeks beforehand because he likes training in Boulder. He obviously said he did that for Lake Placid, but it's one thing traveling from Boulder to New York than it is going to Kona, which is like a 9-10 hour flight for him, and 4 hours, 4 time zones different.
Yeah.
So I don't know how he's going to feel on race day. Also, not having done any course recce's, not knowing what the course is like, how it rides. It's just like, I just don't know how it's going to go.
Yeah, that's a good point. Actually, now I'm a bit concerned. Um,
But I still put him for a top 5 because I'm hoping that he has a good race. And
who's your fourth?
Matthew Marquette.
Oh, good pick actually. Why have you got? I've got Magnus Ditlev.
I just think he's a really strong swimmer, biker, similar to like Ditlev. Well, he's a better swimmer than Ditlev, but he's not as good a runner. So I feel like he'll be off the front. I think he's going to go with Laidlow, and then I think he runs like 250, something like that. He gets caught by some people behind, or they run away from him at the start. But I just feel like he might be strong enough to hold on for like a 4th place. He's been quiet. He's gone under the radar. So I imagine he's just been training hard, just getting on with his own thing. No one's been talking about him or really, in the media. But I think he'll have a strong race. He's like every Ironman he's done, he's been pretty strong. I don't know if he's really won any, but he's always been there or thereabouts, and he's been a big protagonist in the races that he has done.
I've gone with Magnus. I think that Magnus is, he's just a very, very complete athlete. But I think if there's one sort of thing I'd say about Magnus is he's very good at racing his race. Kind of what you were saying about Kristian before. And I think that this isn't a race where you can just go and do a TT. This is a race where you have to race the race. So I have a feeling that he will probably be right up there in contention on the bike, but maybe so there'll be some of those other guys who are close enough to him on the run that will either come past him or pull away from him a little bit. So I have got him in 4th place.
And then is it me for 3rd, or
Yeah.
are you say?
I can go 3rd.
All right, go on in.
For 3rd place, I have picked Sam Laidlow.
Have you?
Yeah. Who's your 3rd?
Mine's Kristian.
Interesting. Again, so I've gone Sam. I think very similar last year. I think this time he's just going to get run down by 2 better runners. I think he's definitely going to have a gap off the bike. I think he's going to come off first off the bike because I think he knows he needs that gap. I just don't think the gap's going to be big enough. And I think the 2 guys that are going to come first and second are going to just run him down and run past him.
I think he comes off with a big enough gap and he holds on the run.
There you go. So you know who your first is.
I think he might come off, but I think he might come off with Magnus. But I just see him outrunning Magnus.
Okay.
I think he's better in the heat. Like that run what he did in 2022 there, I was really surprised. Yeah. And also he had a good run in Dallas when it was boiling hot back then as well in the PTO race. I think he finished 4th then.
He's impressed me a lot, to be honest. The way he's gone from being a bit shit to like 2 very, very good performances of those T100 races. I'm impressed by him. So yeah.
And then is it my turn to pick?
Yeah, you've got Kristian. So you've sort of explained why you think already Kristian.
Yeah, I just think Kristian's just going to lose it on the bike, and I don't think he's going to be able to run as much time into the guys that he needs. That's what I think. And then my 2nd place is Ditlev.
Interesting. Okay. You want to go into mine's Patrick Lange. So
yeah, I just think with Ditlev, he's going to be swim there or thereabouts. I saw him hit on one of the videos that I'm at. I can't remember if it was on one of Talbot's ones. He was hitting some good times in the pool. So I think he's swimming quite well. He's managed to normally make the front pack, and if he misses it, it's only by about a minute. So I think he'd bridge up to the tail end of that outside of transition. He'll hit it hard from the start and he'll be on the back. And then I think he's going to cause some carnage on the bike, and he's going to run fairly well. Not really like super fast, like, low 240s, 245, something like that. But I think he's going to have a bit of a buffer on Kristian, and he's going to hold him off. I think I could imagine him starting the run with Sam Laidlow and then running shoulder to shoulder for a little while, and then him fading a bit in the last, in the back end.
Interesting. I think Patrick, as I've sort of said at the start, I think he's going to benefit from some of those riders coming through, and he's going to get a bit of a toe up towards the front of the race. And I think he's going to be good enough to hold on to be within striking distance, and he's going to run so much faster than everybody else except for one person. And that's going to put him in 2nd place. I don't think he's going to be able to outrun my 1st place pick for the win, Kristian Blummenfelt, who I think is going to come through there or thereabouts with the front guys off the bike, and then he's just going to outrun them. It's that simple for me for Kristian.
Mine's Laidlow. I just think he's going to swim at the front, bike at the front, and hang on the run.
Can't wait to see it. Well, Joe, mate, I know you got to go, so thank you so much for coming on this week. If people want to follow you, tell them where to go. Give your socials a bit of a plug.
You can go on my YouTube, Joe Skipper, or follow me on Instagram, Not Another Average Joe. We're always posting updates on there, regular training videos, that kind of thing.
Cool. All right, Joe, thanks so much. I saw we got a brief little cameo from Arabella there, so we'll say goodbye and talk to you later. Thanks, mate.
See ya.
And we're back. James Bell.
He knows what he's talking about, doesn't he?
he has a bit. He knows a little bit. Now we gave our picks for the top five, and we gave our reasons for it, Jimbo. I want to give you the platform to also give us your top five picks. Tell us who you think how it's gonna go down in Kona, mate.
Yeah, I mean, I disagree with Joe on the winner. I tend to agree with you on this one. I think Kristian Blummenfelt is. I understand Joe's points, which you fed to me already, and I wouldn't be surprised if it worked out that way for some of the reasons he outlined. But I think Blumenfeld is going to do this. I think he's kind of. You look at his performance in Frankfurt, you look at his pedigree, and I think this race is his to lose. So Kristian Blumenfeld is my pick for the win. Magnus Ditlev in second, Sam Laidlow in third, Daniel Beckergaard in fourth, and then I've got my man Rasmus Svenningsson rounding out the top five.
Now, do you want to give a little bit as to why that's like? How do you see it unfolding, or you just want to leave it like that, or what do you reckon?
I just see Kristian is going to be up there.
Yeah.
Like Joe said, he's going to have to do a lot of work, but I think he's got that work in him. And when it comes to the win, I just think he's got the run that no one within spitting distance can touch. I don't think someone like Lange is going to be close enough to bring that run to bear.
I agree with that.
I think we're going to see Kristian Blummenfelt running for the win fairly comfortably.
I think something that we didn't touch on with Joe so much, but I genuinely believe, and I don't know, but I think Gustav is there very much as a domestique for Kristian. We know that his run isn't there.
I've seen this rumor going around the WhatsApp group for the last few days.
His run isn't there. Like either he's lying or it just isn't. And I mean, we've seen him do a number of races. He's been getting better, but he's still not where he used to be. I think he knows that. But I still think his bike is going to be, he's got we think Kristian's position is crazy. Gustav's is fucking mental, mate. And I think that is very much because he knows he ain't running a fast marathon off the bike. I genuinely think he's going to be there to work with Kristian. And I think that, yeah, I really
I don't believe they're going to ride those positions. I don't believe it.
Okay.
I don't.
I don't know. I don't know.
I think I think it's a funny little social media look at our Superman position. Graham O'Brien, Boardman back in the day, good positions for the track, got a lot of speed on the track, but you haven't got the stability with that position in the cross rins of Kona to then run off the bike as well. I don't see it. I mean, I might be wrong.
Did you have Lange in your top five?
No.
See, I think that you picking Rasmus for fifth means that almost to me makes me positive that Lange will be in the top three, because if that, Rasmus is going to be coming from behind past Patrick Lange. And if Lange can get on that, because I guess Rasmus is going to have a few people with him. If Lange can get on that train and get towed up towards the front, and if he's in spitting distance of those boys, I think he could be within spitting distance of them all. And I just don't think I think he's going to get outrun by Kristian. And that's why I think that's the divide. I think if you took Kristian Blummenfelt out of this race,
no, I hear that. I hear that. Absolutely. It depends on whether he can get on that train, doesn't it?
Yeah.
If he can latch onto the back of that and hold the watts because there's going to be a powerful chase group coming through, and I don't think Lange is going to be able to hold on to it.
So that's interesting. That's what Joe said as well. And I think it's 12-minute draft. I think that like Rasmus is going to be fortunate. He's going to have there's going to be guys working. You're going to have the Matt Burtons, Mike Phillips, Lionel Sanders, Trevor Foley. Of course, Cam Worth. Like, I think that group could be quite big, to be honest. I think we could actually see a lot like that group come together and be quite powerful. And I actually think that group in particular, we talk about like who could change the impact of a race. To me, Rasmus is really one of those X factors where I think that, whether we saw him doing some crazy stuff a few days out, whether that's, traditionally he has sort of struggled in an event, whether it's, I don't know, but I feel like if he's on, especially on the bike, he could dramatically change the outcome of this event through that ride. So it's certainly very keen to see what.
And if you do get a power group of bikers together like that, who are working at their best and working together, then you kind of put a rider like Patrick Lange in the red to even stay with that group.
Yeah. I don't know. That's what I think if you look at, there's like 4, 5, 6 of them, the further back you get, the effort gets less. I don't see Patrick Lange taking turns on the front. I think that
no, but you still got to be able to.
He's not a
all
bad
that
right.
real.
Like, yeah, he's not terrible though, right, either. So I don't know. I guess we'll find out after Saturday.
We
Anything else
will
you want to say
find
about
out,
Kona,
won't we?
mate?
Not really.
Let's wrap it
Not
up
really.
then.
I'm looking forward to the race, mate. I'm looking forward to watching it transpire. I'm glad that it starts late in the day for me, so I can watch into the evening without impacting my day too much.
Love it. Well, if people want to find out more, where do they go, James Bale?
If you want to support the show, jump on at patreon.com/talking triathlon. If you want to follow Tim, he's at T14 on Instagram. I'm at bale.james85 on Instagram. We are on Instagram as at Talking Triathlon. We are no longer on Twitter because it's full of wankers. And if you want to join the Patreon group, you'll get access to the monthly bonus episode and the social group, and you'll get the added to the WhatsApp group. And the WhatsApp group is banging,
Yeah, as I
especially
said,
this weekend.
yeah,
The
this
one
weekend,
weekend it's worth it.
maybe 3 or 4. YouTube as well. As I say, guys, please come on over to YouTube, subscribe, like the videos, give us your picks. Go to YouTube to give us your picks. It's the best spot. We just keep getting
Yeah,
people
totally.
telling us, like, it's just been telling us we're wrong, we're idiots or something. So it'd be
Oh, I'm
nice to
not
get
averse
some.
to that. I love it. I love it. I don't mind being told I'm wrong. I often am.
I am almost exclusively wrong. James Bale, a pleasure as always, guys. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next week. Talk to you later.
Cheerio.